ICE raids will begin on Sunday and will target families with final orders of deportation. That's according to two sources familiar with the planning. The president teased the operation on Monday, tweeting, "Next week, ICE will begin the process of removing millions of illegal aliens who have illicitly found their way into the United States. They will be removed as fast as they come in." NBC News correspondent Julia Ainsley is working the story for us. She joins me now. Julia, what more do we know about these raids?
Well, Allie, you're right. These could target up to 2,000 people. These are mainly families who have final orders of deportation from a judge, either for a court case they showed up to or did not show up to. But oftentimes the reason why these families stayed here is because they weren't priorities. Previous administrations went after people with criminal convictions, and in most cases, these people are non-criminal. The only thing they've done illegal is come into the United States without documentation. They could also go after people who came in here as children, unaccompanied, and then turned 18. We know that these are two areas the Trump administration wants to go after in order to send a message to unaccompanied children and families who are crossing the border now. We also know, I can report now, Allie, from sources who are familiar with the planning, that this will target a large number of cities across the country, mainly large cities, some medium-sized. It's easier for ICE to go to places that are large cities because, frankly, they just can target more people at once. And it seems here what they want is impact, to show a message very quickly and clearly. The issues they will then face is where to put these people as they try to detain them before they're deported. As you know, we have about 53,000 people already in ICE custody. Many of those have just come across the border. So now they'll have to find a place for what could be up to 2,000 to hold them before they are deported. So the logistical concerns around this will follow. But right now, we expect these raids to begin in pre-dawn hours on Sunday.
And again, you said they're going to be across the country. Do we have any more detail on that?
Well, others have reported Miami, maybe one of those cities, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. That is something we're hearing. But at this point, NBC News is reporting that it's a large number of cities across the country, many more than just that handful, Allie.
Julia, thank you for your reporting on this. We'll stay on top of the story with you. Julia Ainsley, NBC National Security and Justice reporter.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.